There we go. Okay. Thank you very much for the invitation, first of all, dear Ant. I'll hold my presentation in English. My Turkish is not good enough, although I speak some. Been to Turkey so many times, at least 20 times. This is the first time I'm here on business, so it's a fantastic experience. And today I'm here as the representative for the Institute for Building Biology and Sustainability, the International Institute, which is basically the mother institute of building biology in the world. Maybe a little bit about myself. My name is Christian Blank. I'm a board member of the Verband Baubiologie, VB, which is the world's largest building biology association. And I'm also a member of the commission of the standards of building biology testing methods, which we will talk about in just a moment. First of all, let me say a little bit about the Institute of Building Biology. It was founded about 40 years ago by Professor Dr. Anton Schneider, who was a pioneer in this field. Without him, we would probably all not be sitting here. And he was obviously very motivated. He was the driving force. Unfortunately, he passed away in 2015, and his son, Winfried Schneider, took over, and now he is the director. Winfried Schneider would like me to convey the following message to you. I will try to speak slowly, so if that's the translators have an easier job. Turkey is a strong country with many wonderful and intelligent people and a great tradition. I would therefore also like to see Turkey develop its own building biology approach based on regional knowledge, the use of regional raw materials, for example, for the production of building materials, and respect for regional craft techniques, construction methods, and historically evolved building styles. This way, our world becomes more colorful, and we can learn a lot from each other on the way to a healthy and sustainable future. The Institute for Building Biology and Sustainability is financially and politically independent. It offers educational programs and public outreach in 3 different ways. First one is it offers a correspondence course to become a building biology consultant like myself. For all participants of this forum, the Institute for Building Biology and Sustainability would like to offer a 10% discount on this correspondence course in case anyone would like to go and become a building biology consultant, and this is valid for the next 14 days after the forum. The second way for public outreach is an education to become a building biology testing specialist. We'll talk a little bit more about that in just a minute. And it also publishes an online magazine at www.baubiologie-magazin.de, which is in German. On the other hand, the building biology correspondence course is in English, German and English, obviously. This is a screenshot of the website. You can find more information on the website at baubiologie.de. And the building biology course is suitable for many different professionals who would like to specialize in building biology or add building biology to their portfolio. So it's suitable for architects and planners, but also for craftsmen, specialist engineers, building material manufacturers or dealers, building experts, and even for healthcare professionals or environmental doctors. But it's not exclusively restricted to that, it's also valid for many others. The building biology approach, as Dr. Akwan has already introduced us to, is building new buildings according to the 25 guiding principles of building biology, which can be found in different languages, also in Turkish, at the following web addresses, web links. And the other part of building biology approach is also to inspect new buildings, existing buildings, and building sites according to the 25 guiding principles of building biology, but also testing according to the standard of building biology testing methods, SBM. That is available in English. You can find the links down here. Now, today's topic is mostly about healthy buildings. What relation is there between the building and the health of its inhabitants? Well, the reason why indoor environments are important for humans regarding their health is because 90% of us spend about 90% of our time indoors, which means buildings, but it also may mean cars, buses, any way we commute to our workplace. It might mean public buildings and all the above. So we spend about 90% of our time indoors, even though we might not be aware of it. Each of us breathes between 12,000 and 20,000 liters of air per day, depending on whether we're male or female, big or small, or how physically active we are. Most people spend approximately 8 hours a night, hopefully, in their beds, and which are always the same 2 square meters, basically, and an additional 8 hours per day on their workplace. So that means we spend 2/3 of our time in 2 places, more or less. Even at relatively low levels of exposures to environmental factors indoors, we might experience possible long-term health effects because the individual dosage of an environmental factor is the intensity of the exposure multiplied with the time frame of the exposure. So especially in those 2 areas, sleeping area, bed, and workplace, it is very important that we minimize any biologically relevant factors. Now, we've heard about the 25 guiding principles of building biology. They also have a focus on different aspects of healthy and sustainable buildings. And if we go one step further, apart from the right planning, we can also qualify and quantify our exposure through building biology testing. Building biology testing is also known as environmental analysis, and it basically is a professional and holistic identification, subsequent minimization, and avoidance of environmental risk factors within an individual's framework of possibility. In other words, what can be done, can be done. What can't be done, can't be done. Right? So we try and do whatever is within the individual's framework of possibility. The goal is to create indoor living environments that are as natural and as exposure-free as possible. Now, we cannot convert an Izmir apartment into an Uludağ mountain cabin or into a village house in the Black Sea area. That's just not possible. But we can try to get as close as possible. Any risk reduction is worth aiming at. So again, what can be done should be done. And nature is the ultimate standard. So we try to get indoor environments that are as close to a natural environment as possible. Let's talk about the standard of building biology testing methods. This is the face for any building biology testing. The building biology standard gives an overview of the physical, chemical, microbiological, indoor climate, and other risks encountered in sleeping areas, as I just said, living spaces, workplaces, and guidelines. Workplaces and properties, and it offers guidelines on how to perform specific measurements and assess possible health risks. It is science-based, objective, and reproducible. Reproducible means if I do measurements today and I come up with certain results, next week or in a month, if a colleague comes to the same place and does the same measurements, then the results should be the same. So they should be reproducible. It's a very important aspect. All the testing results, testing instruments, and procedures are documented in a final written report. And in case potential problems are identified, an effective remediation strategy is developed. In other words, is there a problem? Is the first question. How bad is it? Is the second question. And what can be done? What is the solution? Is the third question. That is my line of work. This is what the standard of building biology testing methods looks like. It basically consists of 3 columns. The first column is the physical column. I won't go into too much detail. As I said, it's available online, but I'll just cover the main categories and subcategories. Column A is the physical column, and giving an overview of the physical factors that we encounter in indoor environments. Column B is the chemical column, and column C is the microbiological column. So we see here, hold on, there we go. We see here we have column A, fields, waves, and radiation. So the first point here is the AC electric fields, and you can see the different sources. I know it's written very small, but you can have a look at that online. Different sources for AC electric fields. And then we have all the other factors that are physical factors. AC magnetic fields, radio frequency radiation that is emitted, for example, by our Wi-Fi routers and our smartphones. Static electric fields, static magnetic fields, radioactivity, geological disturbances, sound waves, and light quality. And there are different ways to measure all that with lots of different equipment. The second column is the chemical column. So we have indoor toxins that we measure, pollutants, and indoor climate. For example, formaldehyde, which can be found in lots of furniture, but also in other building materials. Solvents and other volatile organic compounds, pesticides and other semi-volatile organic compounds, heavy metals, particles and fibers, like for example asbestos, and then different factors that concern the indoor climate. But most of these factors are interrelated. So let's say we have a very low air humidity, then we will have high static electric fields. If we have high static electric fields, we will have low air ions, and so on. So all these are interrelated within each other, and they also stand in a direct correlation with people's health. So all these are proven to affect people's health by themselves, but also in combination. The third column is the microbiological column, column C, which is fungi, bacteria, and allergens, mostly molds and their spores and metabolites, different toxins, for example, yeasts and their metabolites in all very humid areas, bacteria and their metabolites, and dust mites and other allergens. So these are the 3 columns of the standard of building biology testing methods. Let's look at a few examples. I'm just giving a few examples here, given the limited time, of my practical work. Everyone has probably seen something like this somewhere in the countryside or in the city. And everybody has been wondering whether this is healthy, or at least some people have been wondering, can this be healthy? Now, we know it can't. It all depends on the exposure. But if you live close by and you have a direct line of sight, then that can, in very many cases, obviously have a direct impact. This is what it looks like when I do a professional measurement. In this case, it was on a construction site, and we had one of those cell phone antennas somewhere in this direction. And there is a way to protect buildings, the inside of buildings, from that radiation coming in, not 100%. So a cell phone will still work, but it is possible to reduce it by roughly 99 or 99.9%. It depends on how well you work. In this case, we have used a special shielding mesh, which is made out of stainless steel, and we have just put it under plaster. Well, this is not very building biological. This was not holistic, as you can see, but this layer in between was. It is also possible to shield whole houses with shielding paint. In this case, it was shielded from the outside. The whole facade was shielded because we had a mobile phone mast over there. And maybe just as a small case study, in this case where you see this little smiley up here, this was a sleeping room for a small child, for a toddler, 2 years old. And the parents have told me that the child has never slept. It was crying the whole night. And the moment this guy down here, which is the painter, the moment he was done with painting the house and shielding it from this radiation, it was, as I said, antenna very close by. From the first light, the 2-year-old slept. So I get that so many times. In the meantime, we don't have time now, but there are hundreds of case studies of my work alone where we have improved people's health by building biology measures. So it's a very, very interesting field, and luckily some doctors have realized that as well, at least in some countries. This paint is black. It doesn't have to stay black, of course. That wouldn't look very nice. So it can be overpainted with other colors later on. It's black because it contains graphite fibers and carbon fibers. It's non-toxic. It's breathable. So it is absolutely building biology conform. And once it's overpainted, you don't see it anymore. It can also be used inside to shield individual rooms, for example, bedrooms. Measurements of indoor toxins are usually done by taking air samples onto different filters. And then if there is anything out of the order, if any substance is found in the air at a higher concentration than we would like it to find, then we go deeper and we take material samples and send those to the lab. And then that is called air and material sample. And usually we get the results within 2 to 3 weeks, and then we can come up with a solution strategy. There are also ways to measure some indoor toxins with direct or immediate quantification methods. Those are special equipment which enable us to find possible sources right on the spot. So we can look for sources of volatile organic compounds and solvents, but also formaldehyde with special equipment right away. Then, of course, we've got mold detection, which is the third part of my work, or the third example from the third column of my work, the microbiological column. The possible reasons for mold growth are incorrect and insufficient ventilation, water damages, for example, leaking pipes, water pipes, building errors, for example, leakages in roof areas, wrong construction materials, for example, the ones that are not humidity buffering, and seasonal change of indoor climates, and therefore also surface temperatures. Now, for example, some of you might have some holiday home on the Aegean coast, or you might know someone who has, and they could have possible mold issues in the winter. Why is that? Because when people leave their apartments at the end of the summer, they close all the doors and all the windows. And the moisture in the air stays within that apartment or house and does not get interchanged with the ambient air outside. It gets cooler, especially during the night, especially on the northern side of the houses. And the indoor air temperature and the surface temperature of the walls goes down. The moment that happens, we can see on this graph, cooler air, right? This is the temperature axis, and this is the water retention axis. The cooler the air, we can see that the water retention capability diminishes the lower the temperatures are. So the lower the temperature, the less water air can store like a sponge. And then as a result, the water becomes visible, and that is a phenomenon called condensation. The moment we have condensation, it means that the water becomes available for any living organism. And I tend to say mold is also just a human being. They want to eat, they want to drink. So the moment they have something to eat, which they usually find, all they need is something to drink. And the moment they have something to drink, they start growing. And that's exactly what's happening. So we should try and prevent moisture indoors on walls by all means. The practical work in this field consists, first of all, of humidity measurements. So we try to measure surface humidity and also indoor air humidity, and then we compare the indoor air humidity with the external air humidity. We calculate at which temperature we reach 100% relative humidity. That's the so-called dew point. But mold growth is possible at already 60 to 80% relative humidity. So at all costs, we should try and keep our walls dry. That's what I'm trying to say. Then, of course, we also do temperature measurements to find the cool areas. This only works in the winter, of course. In the summer, it doesn't work. But we find cool areas in which the risk of condensation is higher, and therefore the mold growth is much more likely. Another part of practical work when it comes to mold detection is air sampling. Now, air sampling is just one way of detecting invisible mold growth. This is about detecting invisible mold growth especially. Usually several methods are combined. So this is what it looks like when we take a defined volume of air onto a Petri dish, and then we grow it either ourselves or we send it to the lab. And then you can see how beautiful all these little colonies are, and we can see whether the different spores outside are the same as inside, which means in that case we won't have a problem. But if inside of a building we have totally different spores than outside, then we know there has to be a source, and this is how we go ahead and then try and find and eliminate the source. Let me show you a few examples of mold growth on walls. So often mold growth occurs in cooler outer corners of a room in the winter months, and then it can look like this. Sorry, that was two. Or like this. Or in this case, this was not a corner, this was behind furniture that was positioned too close to an outer wall, so local condensation could occur because of lower surface temperatures in these areas. So much for that. Thank you very much for listening. If you have any further questions, I'm around. I'll be outside. Feel free to contact me. It was a pleasure.